A lot of people come to El Salvador to experience the beaches and the surf, but some come down to really see the opportunity. Today I'm sitting down with Paul Pendergrast to show his transition to El Salvador, what it's like working with Club Cocal, where he sees El Salvador in the future. Thanks for coming on, Paul.
It's a pleasure being here.
So, for those who don't know, what was your background before you came to El Salvador?
My background is, like many in the United States and the Western world, I played a lot of sports growing up. I went to a university that had big-time college sports and Greek life culture, which is a combination of academics and drinking with a side of networking, getting ready for what they tell us is the real world. I invested in a property close to my campus, rented that out to some friends of mine who I lived with my senior year of college, and that gave me a taste into the real estate investment world. I then went on to work for a few companies over the next few years until COVID came and completely changed the 3D meat suit world around us. And if you don't believe that to be true, then I believe that you're not paying enough attention. So with that, I went down many rabbit holes of health and finance and many facets of life, and quickly realized that what we had been taught by even our loved ones, bless their hearts, from the institutions that govern many of our day-to-day lives, I soon realized that much of that was false, and to the fault of really no one, as we must take personal responsibility. I decided to take action to let go of what I thought I was working to accomplish in the United States. I wanted to shift that to, in a nutshell, do God's work. God has a plan for all of us, and I realized that His plan for me was to go somewhere else and experience life, humble myself, let Him humble me, and that led me to El Salvador.
Nice. So when did you first hear about El Salvador? Like, when did it come to your brain that you were like, oh, maybe El Salvador is somewhere I'd want to visit and maybe move to one day?
Yeah, I realized El Salvador may be a legitimate option for myself. In the summer of 2023, it had been a year since President Bukele put the clamp down on the gangs, 2 years after Bitcoin becoming legal tender. And I had already been visiting Costa Rica a handful of times. And then El Salvador rose from the ashes. And I quickly realized that this may be a place that many can interact with by moving there, visiting there, investing there, seeking opportunities not only for self, but for others. There's a lot of work to be done here, and a little goes a long way. East Salvadoran people really appreciate that when foreigners come into their country and enjoy it, treat it with respect, and pass on some knowledge on their way out of the country. So yeah, about 3 years ago, I realized, even before I stepped foot in the country, I was starting to see what was happening here.
Yeah, so what were your expectations before ever visiting the country for the first time, and how did those pan out when you actually got here?
My expectations were, I didn't have much expectation. I had, like I said, after a few visits to Costa Rica, you start to understand life in the jungle, life in Central America. I knew that El Salvador had not seen the investment in infrastructure and other things like Costa Rica has over the last 20 years. So I knew coming in that there would be some creature comfort troubles, if you will. I also knew that it was a much smaller country, so it seemed as though traveling around and getting things done was not as big of a deal as in Costa Rica, where you may have to drive hours and hours from the airport to the beach or through crazy jungle to get to the grocery store. Here, the country is fairly well connected, and that was a nice surprise to see that. I think coming in here with low expectations is someone's best bet. If you are looking for a modern Bitcoin utopia or something along the lines of Singapore or even Panama City, that's not what is here today. That is what is being built in a Salvadoran fashion.
Yeah, so Paul here, he's actually living down here full time now and is in the process of getting his passport. And so what are expectations, or at what point did you think that you could actually move here?
After a few visits here, God put me in a position to help with a real estate transaction. A fan of a few Bitcoin libertarian influencers contacted us, and she wanted to buy a beachfront property. So at that time, I was not even working here, but I had met Will Lair, co-owner of Club Cocal here, and we had met and become quite good friends, quite close over the summertime of 2024. And a fan of his and others saw him on a podcast and then followed up after Tucker Carlson and Nayib Bukele's interview. And she wanted a beachfront property and had X amount of dollars. And we found what they call a ganga here, a bargain. I found this on Facebook Marketplace through our Salvadoran partner, Wilson. The lady flew down that weekend and closed on the property. And that was a signal to me that this is something I should pursue. I knew that every transaction would not be this easy, not even close. But for my first interaction in business here in El Salvador, for it to be a success and for me to get paid, that was a clear signal that I should spend a lot more time down here and help build a real estate brokerage and development company that can help foreigners and Salvadorans alike navigate the jungle, navigate the ever-changing landscape of how business and development is done here in El Salvador. The public and private sector are working very hard together to bring this country up to par with other countries across the world that are attracting investment.
Yeah, so a thing I think a lot of people don't realize is how emotional it is buying a property down here in El Salvador. We see people come down, sometimes even on their first visit, they come down and they feel that connection. So how have you noticed that? Like, have you seen that as well down here?
Absolutely. I mean, that first deal was just that. This lady was ecstatic after seeing Mr. President on Tucker Carlson's show, and we've had others. Yeah, that's a right. That interview was one that touched many hearts, right? And people coming down here want to be part of something bigger than themselves, bigger than the selfish route that many of us take to climb the corporate ladder, to climb the social ladder. Here, none of that matters. What matters is uplifting the Salvadoran people, helping them realize the beautiful country that they have, and they do realize that, but it goes deeper than what many people across the world may even realize. How these lands have been poisoned by pesticides, herbicides, GMO seeds, yet with the plethora of volcanoes and volcanic soil, this land can be relatively easy, and I don't use that lightly, I mean relatively easy. You know, regenerating land anywhere is difficult and does take work, but with the geography and the soil and all the factors here in El Salvador, this is a place that can be an example to the world of growing your own food, having your own livestock, and being sovereign. That's, in my opinion, number one on the to-do list for everyone here in El Salvador, whether visiting or living, supporting regenerative agriculture however you can, whether being a creator or a consumer, and that's how this country can flourish. And more people will see that and they will feel that emotion and continue to contribute.
Yeah, so I mean, you've spent a lot of time showing people all around the country. Like, where do you think, if someone comes here for their first time, where do you send them?
It depends what they're looking to do or how much time they have here. We've had a lot of people lately visit for a long weekend, like a Thursday to Tuesday. So we get to the beach here in Surf City so that they can see kind of the hype, if you will. Yeah, and the hype is becoming reality. A lot more creature comforts, both for locals and foreigners. Lots of great businesses and restaurants opening up. It's easily accessible. Club Cocal is 45 minutes from the airport. And then it's another 20 to Bitcoin Beach. Centro Histórico is a great example as well of how the country's developing. It's very streamlined and clean, and you can tell it's being done block by block. There are no shortcuts after 50 years of chaos. If we want to build with a foundation, strong foundation, it's going to take time. And after that, I send people, if they're really mountain people, I send them to Murph's Life, because that dude's, as far as private citizens, I think he's built more than anyone else for his own botanical retreat and for the locals around him. That immediate area in Los Naranjos, much of the land appreciation there is directly tied to how much Aaron Murphy has done for that area and for the locals. He's got 2 really awesome hotel rooms above the new cafe with straight on views of volcanoes. Those are places we're sending people lately.
Yeah, so you talked about the development going on in Centro Histórico and all around the country. So how has it been surprising, or what are your outtakes on just all the development and all the infrastructure being built here in El Salvador?
My first thought is that creates jobs, right? It's economic activity where there was hardly any before. And I think after that, after taking care of your hierarchy of needs, right, you realize, okay, we have jobs. Now, what types of jobs are they? What are those jobs doing? I believe that more emphasis should be put on preserving the jungle and the forest instead of bulldozing swaths of trees. I think we should put more energy into figuring out how to build within nature, not on top of it or in spite of it. That's, in my opinion, that's near the top of the list when we're talking the development of the country, how to keep what is left, because much of El Salvador has been deforested over 500 plus years of at least modern civilization, you know, when the Spanish came here. So yeah, preserving what makes this place beautiful, you know, using AI, right? That's a big tool that the government and the private sector are using here. So, and I do know that the regulator for development is using AI for many reasons. So hopefully we can all work together and develop in a more naturaleza way.
Yeah, so seeing the change that everything's happened, like, where do you see El Salvador in the next 5, 10, 15 years?
Over the next decade, give or take 5 years, I think El Salvador can be an example to the world of beauty and creation, getting back to its traditional roots, right, from developing Centro Histórico and downtown into what it was when it was first erected, to harnessing the culture of the Mayan and the Pipil, how to utilize the lands to grow clean food, creating clay cookware, right? We've got so many people coming through here now where our pans are almost toast. So what are we going to buy next, right? That is a legitimate question for ourselves, right? Are we going to drive to the mountains to get traditional cookware that works very well, or are we going to a big box store to buy whatever's the combination of most convenient and cheapest, right? Those are the questions and solutions that we have to ask ourselves and find ourselves. The individual has so much more power than we realize. And what's powerful about El Salvador, many sovereign-minded, strong-willed individuals are coming here and working together as a team because there is strength in numbers. So, yeah, I think by harnessing all these factors, right, the old Mayan culture and the new Bitcoin and AI initiatives, in a decade, this place could be unlike many others across the world. I think El Salvador has a legitimate shot at shocking a lot of people. I believe when the mainstream comes in 5 years, that will be a pleasant surprise to them. And as long as the locals and the foreigners work together and keep elevating each other, we're gonna have a really good time hosting people as they visit in the coming years.
So for people coming for their first times, like don't know a ton about El Salvador, never been here before, what's like one key takeaway that you can give them? What's your thought?
Patience, grace, the words that embody how Jesus interacted with the world around him. He was very patient, he was very graceful. He gave with no expectation of reciprocation, right? He gave through unconditional love, right? The Salvadoran people, especially the ones who have stayed here throughout the last few decades, there's trauma in their bodies and likely their souls. And it's amazing to see them smile now and be able to walk outside in peace and be with their family, right? And their kids. You know, this new generation of El Salvador is experiencing life without danger on every corner. And the adults are now starting to realize that as well. And we all know that it's tough to change. Human beings, Homo sapiens, we don't like change. We like stability. And for the people here, what they know was chaos. So they know that it's better now, that it's safer, but it also takes some getting used to that you can walk outside, get sunlight, enjoy watching the waves, and all being tranquilo.
Dude.
So also traffic is, right, the roads of San Salvador proper, right, they haven't been updated in many years, and now you have an influx of drivers, right? Many people hardly could leave their own neighborhood before. So now they're able to be mobile and drive, and that can present traffic issues. So I think across the board, when people come here, patience and grace and the ability to appreciate the many awesome things that this country has to offer already.
Yeah, I mean, we see it. So one of our good friends, his name is Kevin, and he grew up here in Playa El Cocal, now works for us. You see it, like sometimes we'll go travel or we'll go somewhere and he's like, oh, I've never been here before. He's like, we couldn't go here. He's like, even a few years ago, like before Bukele, he's like, you didn't go to this area of town. Like, and there's also like places kind of up near like Waiua, there was like some hot springs that weren't known, like they weren't the they were public, but they weren't like the well-known ones. And like, even our local Salvadoran friends were like, we didn't even know this existed. Like, that's one of the craziest things. And like, there's not many places in the world where you go where it's safe enough to travel around your own country in a country as small as this, and you don't even know what's like, you don't even know what's there. So,
yeah.
Well, Paul, I appreciate you coming on.
Appreciate you having me, Dylan.
Yeah.
We're really excited about what's to come, and come join us in the jungle.
Yeah. This Saturday, we're hosting the next Bitcoin Farmers Market from 10 to 4. We hope to see you there.
Ciao.
See you guys.